Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Mitchell File. I'm your host, Roosevelt Mitchell III. Today, I'm joined by a special guest, Dr. Shamonda Owens, who is also my classmate, my sorority sister, and also a public school teacher of almost 20 years and a great community activist. How's it going today, Doc?
Everything is going fine. How's it going on your end?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to dive right into the topic. There was a Wall Street Journal article stating that some school districts are planning to end the school year early due to the coronavirus pandemic. Because for many teachers and students, adapting to remote learning has been truly a challenge. And the story goes into the public schools in Washington, D.C., as well as counties in Georgia and Texas, and a handful of other states have announced an early end to the school year. And Chancellor Louis Freeby said during a recent briefing in DC that we believe that preserving some time from June and potentially utilizing that time in August would be the best approach to provide the optimal learning experience for students, right? So we now have come to a place, Dr. Owens, that now many school districts are planning to end the school year early as opposed to opening up like the president has suggested just yesterday. So what are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't suggest that we end the school year early. I suggest that we have training because it was through at you. A lot of teachers never did like the Google Classroom, the Microsoft Team Learning. The students didn't know how to use, it was like in St. Louis public schools, we're still getting technology. And so if you end it now, some kids will never get started. And we have, even though it's like less than 15 to 20% of kids doing online work, some kids are doing work and it gives them something to do versus the video game all day, keeping kids out the street. And so we have like 20 some more days. And so I advise every school district around the country to not end it early, just have training, because in a recent article I read, we're talking about the next wave going to hit in November. So what if this is happening next year? Will we be prepared? So if you end early, we won't be prepared. And so my thing is to be patient. As a teacher, I had to be patient. You had to email, you had to call these parents, walk them through it slowly on how to log in. I know it's tedious work and it's tiresome, but as an educator, we are used to this. It's better than getting up for 6.5 days, driving somewhere, teaching. So your job is with you online 2 to 3 hours a day. And so, like I said, I wouldn't recommend that you end it, go ahead and go to May 26th, June 4th, your whole regular school year, because these kids need this. The parents need this because you have some parents about to go back to work. We have to keep these kids busy and engaged. If we end it now, then we're going to start the year off Q1. Then they're going to fail because some of these kids are moving up. What about the kids that are in elementary school that's going to make a transition to middle school and middle school to high school? We have to have some kind of common ground. So if you end early, are you going to have summer school like Dr. Adams proposed in July to teach these kids how to transition? Because let's think about it. I'm not used to dealing with middle school kids. If I end up with 9th grade next year, then I don't have kids that missed their whole last quarter. They're supposed to get accustomed to how social study work in high school. And you have to be patient. So that's going to be a whole nother topic we're going to be revisit. Do we hold kids behind? Do we hold them accountable, for their lack of knowledge going to the next grade next year?
And I'm glad you said that. I want to actually touch on that. What are your thoughts about passing kids on? Because this is an unforeseen circumstance, which many would call a God-given act. So do you hold the kids accountable and responsible for the coronavirus, an epidemic that hadn't had this kind of effect on our nations since 1918 and the Spanish flu? Or do we just say, okay, well, now in education, we got to ride this thing out and we got to keep it going? Because the families, it's in theory, yes, it's cool to just do everything through technology, but we are not taking into account, or many school districts are not taking into account, the stress and the trauma that the students and families are actually encountering, losing family members, not having food to eat, losing their jobs. Almost 30 million people have filed for unemployment in the last 3 weeks. So the dynamics of everything changing. So do we hold kids back or do we push everybody forward?
I don't say we push everybody forward. But you got to think about the kids that are home with no lights, the kids that are in transition, living in cars, home to home. But we start with the third quarter grades. Everybody got to basically period 3. We got basically through that. We was in the spring break mode. So if the kids have A's or B's, you don't hold those kids back. You look at first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and they were doing fine. You pass them on. But the kids that were struggling, this is now that you hold them accountable because you have time to have more one-on-ones. What time do teachers in high school, we barely have time to have FaceTime with kids. In middle school, this is a time the parents can call in, request Zoom meetings, emails to tutor this kid, and this kid can be on the master level by May or June. And so this is the time that we start emailing when kids don't log on, when they get viewing the work, you call the parents, you email the parents, you hold the parents accountable as well, and you hold a student accountable. You can call. I'm seeing videos and stuff like that where teachers are sitting at the front door, you know what I'm saying, tutoring kids. It's not safe for everybody in every neighborhood in every city, but you can do a Zoom meeting one-on-one, and so you can get that kid to abreast. So we just don't pass the kids because some kids are not prepared because of their third quarter, the previous quarter grades, or they don't know enough to pass. And so you have the rest of the year, and you can if that kid doesn't get on, then it's a problem. Then we have to do some home visits and getting that kid prepared in summer before they can transition on.
But still, how would you address the fact that some students, you know, there's still some areas, particularly in East St. Louis, that don't even have internet access.
Mm-hmm.
So some kids don't even have internet access. And then 2, especially in the public school setting, these are the same parents that a lot of public school teachers complain about, who don't show up for parent-teacher conferences, who don't get their kids school supplies and all that. So now we have to depend on those same parents in order to remote learn and to remote teach. And then if those parents don't hop on board, which they hadn't shown us in the past at all, we should still hold those kids back because of the family dynamic doesn't value education.
No, that's why I said what summer school comes in, because I think the District of Missouri is going to let you go to summer school twice. And that's going to be in July, right before school start. And that's when I say the transition piece can work. And I'm sure those kind of parents will let their kids come. But I think you still have safety precautions in place with masks on in summer learning environment. But just to get them the extra boost before they pass. Or if we don't, if say we don't have summer school, then that's where the teacher's going to have to go into dig deep. That first quarter is going to have to review. You're going to have to review.
Yep.
You're gonna have to take that first couple of weeks to review, and that's what a state is gonna have to understand, that everybody not gonna be on the same pacing guide. And so this brings up a whole nother issue. We know by being in education, the kids are tested tremendously from the 3rd grade on to our high school, and so we had to take those first couple of weeks to build those bonds, the relationship, and to review like you never reviewed in your life. And so that's what it is. The first couple of weeks of school. August the 24th for the state of Missouri and on is going to be real critical. And we know a lot of school kids, high school, middle school, don't come to schools at the spring break. And so this is going to be a very interesting year.
Yeah, very. And, you know, I'm from the school of thought that I think all kids should be pushed forward just because of the circumstance. Because, you know, again, I think that it's not anyone's fault, but I do think that next year is going to be one of the toughest years to teach for any teacher in this country in a long time, because like you said, even the kids who was on grade level still missing the 4th quarter. So beginning of the school year, you will have to catch kids up the first quarter, and then the second quarter, you're going to have to introduce them to the material that's going to be on the district and state's test. Right, second and third quarter.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's why I asked you. Like, I kind of disagree, because if that kid were failing like first, second, and third quarter, then you have some common ground to hold that child back, or the kid can end up testing out the next year.
But how many public schools hold kids back anyway? You know what I mean?
I can't really answer that question on the elementary level, but middle school do until you age out.
You age out anyway, exactly. So I think that argument, and it's not True. On a particular school district per se, but the states, you know, like have control over all that. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking they might as well go ahead and get pushed forward. And then at that point, though, we have to come up with some kind of plan. Hopefully, like you said, we can give some kind of rigor or some kind of teaching in the summer if things get better.
Mm-hmm.
But
But it won't be traumatic to the kid, because if you already frustrated, you didn't learn third grade work, you go to fourth grade and you hit with new equations because you were supposed to learn your timetables in third grade or your states and capital. Now you a geography, you a continent. Then they're gonna be confused, and then you have to, you know what I'm saying, understand, like you said, be patient with these kids because they didn't learn it. Like I said, that's where review. It's gonna take a lot of talk with the school board, the district, and parents. So this summer is gonna be a time where we have to open listen, and all stakeholders have to be involved.
True. So do you think the teachers will have to rewrite the pacing guide statewide next school year?
I definitely think so, because if not, then let's say like the EOC classes, and if everybody don't know what EOC means, it's end of course exams, and that means like for government, math, or whatever. Because if you held to a certain standard, and every quarter you have a benchmark or a test that says if you on pace or not. And so I think you had to push everything back up just a little bit. Like for the first 3 weeks should be review. And that's where most schools do that, the cultural awareness, and to help build a climate, a culture, and the character ed piece. But now with that, you're gonna have to do a lot of reviewing.
Exactly. A lot more reviewing than usual, for real. A lot more. So I agree with that. Also, how do you think this pandemic, the coronavirus, will change the scope of education moving forward?
Well, because we had a couple scares before, like he said, we either had the Black Plague, smallpox, we done had polio, we had the flu when it first hit, we had SARS, but this is the first time it hit home in some years. And so now I think Morris District is going to go to the Google Classroom, the Microsoft Teams. So if something do happen, and that we're prepared for it. And I feel like every student should have access to technology and free internet, like, what I'm saying, the hotspots anyway. More districts, such as U City, have that. Some elementary schools, but most schools did not have it. So now I was telling the superintendent, you need a plan C. So if something happen, you need an emergency plan of action. If it's this crisis. And so now we're looking at, you're going to get caught kind of with your pants down now. And so if every student had a Chromebook or iPad and teachers had access to that, then you'll be prepared. And if in an urban school, you need that anyway, because kids move a lot and they are absent. Then that way you still have access to your kids. You can record a lesson. So if a kid, even like say if you injure yourself, you don't have to worry about doing homebound because you have the videos up there and the parents look at the assignment. And so now you hold parents and students accountable in more ways than ever, because now you can see if they're missing, you can just log on there and see. And so this is the time now with all the dollars that they have with making money out of school. The schools need to provide technology, internet access to every school. And that's just my spiel. I think going forward, superintendents are learning from this, and they need to be more prepared for a major event like this. Let's say if it was a snowstorm, we had to miss weeks and weeks at a time. Now you have technology in a hotspot, but what do you do if the internet goes out? How do you learn then? And so now it makes you put more emergency plans on the table.
What do you think about, you said a snowstorm? I think this pandemic would be the death of snow days. We enjoy snow days as teachers and students, but I think since we are in this space and time and we are remote learning, why should we not remote learn on snow days as opposed to tacking the days on at the end of the year, which is useless anyway?
Exactly. Because I think they're gonna change the rules on that, because from my understanding, even if you're learning remotely, for a full day to count, kids had to go to a certain hours and you got to feed them lunch. I learned that in the Missouri handbook, and most districts, when they say we go for half a day, it's about the hours of seat time. And so I think, like you said, this is going to count, because even snow days, the days are gone. You still gonna have to post an assignment. Like you said, we have a snow day, then you probably required to get on there and do some type of work or some kind of learning. And I feel like the days of snow days are gone, because now you should have set up, you're gonna spend most of your time setting up, Teams, Google Classroom. I don't know what else out there, Zoom meetings, like you said. So I think those days are gonna be gone once the district, has enough technology. Because in my district, if you have like 3 kids, there's only 1 iPad per family. That's not gonna cut it either.
Wow.
Because you have a middle schooler and an elementary, you might have meetings at the same time. I know one, we had a senior and one was in elementary. They can't share iPads. It's gonna create a fight. And so I feel like everyone needs to have their own technology. If they do that, if most districts can afford that, then snow days will disappear. But if they don't, then it's just gonna be makeup work or stuff like that.
Yeah, because if you notice, and I didn't know this until the coronavirus happened, that remote learning and in school learning is completely different. A kid that comes to school and they're there all day. You teach them all day. But remote learning, if you in elementary, you can only allow to send home 1.5 to 2 hours worth of work or something. Middle school, 1 to 3 hours of work or something like that. So the amount of work time is cut drastically for remote learning than it is on a regular quote unquote school day.
Yeah, you telling me I had 3 subjects. I teach AP government politics, I teach personal finance, and I teach regular government. And on a given day, like at most high schools, you're in blocks of 90-minute classes. And so you taking 1 day of work for the whole week. Like you said, it's only so much you can teach, with remote learning. And you don't want it to be too hard, because kids is going to view it and they're not going to do it. And so I'm at a standstill, because I still had to give my kids an AP exam. My kids still had to take the AP exam when they did away with the ACT, SAT, but they're still holding us College Prep is still holding my kids responsible for AP exam, and I don't get that.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that has been so stressed. My kids calling me, their moms calling me. Like, I'm trying my best to keep preparing them for the AP exam, because I guess we already paid for it. But to me, they should do away with it, because if the ACT and SAT do away with it, come on, College Prep. These kids are in a stressful position. Like, who's to say that these kids are not going to cheat? It's online. They haven't told us how the layout of the test is going to be. And so a regular AP exam, I'm not allowed to see my kids, and it's like a 4.5-hour test. And so now my kids had to take this test in a home, and you don't know what their home life may be. And so I'm afraid right now for the AP kids that are taking the AP exams.
Wow, and that's real, and that's very, very real, because it sounds like it's just smoke and mirrors. The ACT and the SAT have done away with it for college admission. You don't need it to get in college, for next year. So
that was the hidden blessing. That was the blessing that some of those struggling athletes needed. And to me, that was a blessing in disguise. After the storm come a blessing, and sometimes you don't understand it. But some of these people who gonna end up in NFL and NBA is gonna come out this class right here. We know a lot of athletes struggle to get past that 13, the 14, the 15 with the GPA. So this is a blessing in disguise. So nobody really have an excuse, not to go to the college they really want.
Or at least apply. Let them tell you no.
Don't be scared. Apply. It's a free market right now.
Especially talk about how great at basketball those kids from Vashon and these other places around the local area are. Now you don't have to take the ACT or SAT. You can just apply to a school, and you already know they're big time. So these coaches are
based on core GPA. Most of the kids have the core. It's a class they think they don't need, like the arts and stuff. They really don't need it. But now you're dealing with the core GPA, and most of the kids have that core GPA. If you throw that electives out, most kids on average have a 2.5 or 2.7, and even a 3.1 to get them in college. If you just take away the elective class, because I never knew until I was like assistant AD that they only grade you off your core classes. The GPA is off core classes.
Okay.
Yeah, I never knew that. And when one of our players were like a little short, and then you got rid of some of those other classes, and the GPA shot up to a 3.3 for core classes. And I'm like, whoa. And so you never know a lot of these things. And so as a teacher, as a parent, you have to be aware other classes that your kids are taking, like those Spanish classes, those 4-year math and stuff like that. And a lot of our parents are not aware. If you want your kids to go to D1, I know kind of getting off subject, but you still, like, with this ending, just think about some of the seniors. I'm saying it because the seniors, some of them are in K-12, and I don't know, you know what K-12 is? It's online learning. So if they fail the class, they get to go back through K-12 learning, online learning, and make their classes up. And so this is going to probably hit some seniors hard, and they're probably going to struggle their first semester in college. And so my thing is, how is colleges going to deal with this?
Yeah, and that's already, that's always been an issue all across the country. But again, getting back to the schools who are ending learning early, what kind of do you think in a sense of ending it early and the kids being less stressed, because the article cited that a lot of children are stressed, parents are stressed, especially when you're a parent who have to homeschool and you actually have to work a job. So a lot of kids are not even doing the work anyway, because the parent at work, or the parent is in the other room trying to do their work so they can provide, and the child is just doing whatever anyway. So with that off the table and it causing less stress, do you think the kids will come back more motivated, or pick up so many bad habits that it's going to be so hard for them to sit still for 6.5, 7 hours?
It's definitely going to be hard, because think about it. You have like 3 different activities. You can finish your work in 2 hours versus 6.5 hours. If you end it early, you're creating a storm. You're creating chaos for when you come back to school the next year. Let's say in the end of April, it's not even May yet. And so the kids are going to have May, June, July off, and basically most of August. And so they haven't been doing work for 4 weeks. They're going to forget. And we know with those growing and developing brains, you have to read, you have to learn. And so I'm scared for some of those kids, because if you're not doing anything, what the kids going to do? Play the game, run, yell. So some parents just help create structure. They know for 2 hours, the kids are online, looking at how to read, doing Mobley math and stuff like that. But for some kids, what do we do with the kids when they don't? So what are the parents going to do? And we know the parents are stressed out as well, because they're used to the kids being at the house, having something to do. So I'm kind of for it, but I'm kind of against it, because what are the kids going to do? And are they going to continue learning? They're going to continue reading? What kind of pattern are they going to have? I know it's not a percentage, probably about 20-30% of kids who are not doing it, but some of those parents have come to rely on, kids taking the classes every day.
I agree. And, even with my remote teaching and remote learning, and also having to homeschool my 6 and 9-year-old at the same time, I mean, it's a lot, and I'm a trained educator, and it's a lot. So I can only imagine someone who have just lost their job, worried about paying the rent, worried about buying groceries, and then trying to homeschool their kids while look for another job, and all that stress and strain, which is why the spike in child abuse numbers, the spike in domestic violence and stuff like that. So it's a lot of things that's going on, to where, you're right. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
Exactly.
For everybody. There's no uniform answer. It's different places, it's hitting different to
So what if they was given the option to opt out? Like, they can close right now, if you want to continue learning, probably kids can get more one-on-one time, more patience, so whoever wanted to stop, they can stop, and whoever wanted to continue learning, they can help out, because we go into summertime, and more elementary kids go to summer school just to have fun. So the parents don't have the money for babysitters. So when they open back up, what's going to happen then?
True. I mean, and that's why I thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, because these are the conversations that I want to have with educators who are down on the ground putting in work, because typically these conversations are had by the politicians or the people who are not inside the classroom.
Exactly.
But I think we need to have these conversations. We need to talk through these conversations, and most importantly, we need to be solution-based with these conversations. So I truly appreciate it, and I'll let you get the last words in.
Okay. More educators, these retired educators, you have to come out. You have to be on these school boards. You have to run for Secretary of Education. We have people in in top spot on the federal level and state level who never taught before. This is our time to take back our own education system. So educators, if you retire, you're getting close to retiring, run for school board, because we have people making decisions that never been on ground zero that we have. And so whatever we know is in the best interest of the teachers and the students. And so this is the time that we need to come out of retirement and we can run for these different spots. And parents, if you don't understand, it's okay. Email, call, ask. Every teacher's willing to walk you through it. And this is a time to take accountability for your kids. You can get that one-on-one learning. And so your kid can go from a reading level, 3rd grade to 5th grade. So this is a time you can kind of take advantage of some of that. And so I thank you for allowing me to be on your show. I am humbled and I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you. So until next time, my friends, be blessed and be encouraged. Peace.